Hi everyone, welcome to round 5 of the Metagame Star City Games Invitational Tournament from Doncaster. We are into the 5th round of those 7. We have Nick Clark playing Black, White, Red Zombies against Ross Silcock, who is playing Jund, but a rather interesting version of Jund, as Lee will now demonstrate.
Well, me and Ross were having a chat this morning before the tournament, and we'd established that Punishing Fire Grove was absolutely insane. So the first thing we obviously did was try and put it in a 4-colour Cascade deck, which didn't quite work out. And then Ross decided that Jund would be a better shell. So essentially you're doing what the deck wants to do and just grind people out. And it should give you the leg up in the Jund mirror, which we expected a lot of today.
That was mainly due to the recent Grand Prix results. And Nick is playing Red, White, Black Zombies. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
I'm not sure what the white is in there for. I assume it's for Lingering Souls and Tidehollow Sculler. So basically he has a lot of different guys that interact with the graveyard. They go into the graveyard, he can bring them back quite easily, like Gravecrawler as you can see. And he has Goblin Bombardment, which is one on a red enchantment. Sack a dude, deal 1 damage to target creature or player.
Mm-hmm.
And as he can jump his guys in and out of play quite happily, then he can do a lot of damage with that.
And that's Thoughtseize coming from Nick. And what do we see from Ross there? That's a Jitty, Liliana, Lightning Bolt, Punishing Fire, and Abrupt Decay. So Ross is stuck a little bit on land here.
I don't think Ross is going to convince his opponent to take the Punishing Fire, no matter how hard he tries.
Maybe a little bit of mental trickery going on there by Ross. Thing I did notice when I noticed you two talking, was Ross trying to convince you to drop the land count in the deck a bit?
Yeah, and I was basically trying to push him towards playing more. Because the Punishing Fire combo, as it's called, is quite mana hungry.
Yeah.
And I know what Ross is like. He'd have ended up having to Punishing Fire numerous people out over the tournament, I imagine. Like, not just killing their creatures, but actually going to the dome.
It's like the slowest curse scroll on the planet. And a Cabal Therapy from Nick as well. So he's pretty seriously attacking Ross's hand here in the opening stages.
Yeah, Ross could do with generating some card advantage by drawing a Bloodbraid Elf and playing it, but to do that he obviously needs 2 more lands.
Well, there's one.
That was a wasteland. He chose to blow up his opponent's land instead of getting a bit further up.
Do you think that's a play you didn't like there, or do you think that it's a bit hasty there?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I mean, it depends what kind of read Ross has got. I mean, the guy's got no pressure on the board, and Ross has basically got his Punishing Fire going, essentially. It's a bit slow. He has to return it at the end of his opponent's turn, then use it, which will slowly generate him card advantage. I think the main thing he's got to worry about is those zombies coming back consistently.
And
if he thinks keeping him off mana is the way to do it.
Maybe he does.
Bit of indecision here from Nick, tapping and tapping, like he's not quite sure what he wants to be doing.
Well, he's got a lot to think about in this spot. That's another Cabal Therapy, so he's really shredding Ross here.
Yeah, Cabal Therapies are excellent in that deck.
Oh,
Cabal Therapy himself for Lingering Souls.
That's interesting.
Well, because Ross took him off that land, he couldn't really cast those Lingering Souls. So looking at Ross's play, it seems rather good now.
Yeah.
However, Lingering Souls will be making an appearance next turn.
Making quite a lot of dudes.
And then if he does get the bombardment to go with it, that's going to be quite the control element on the board.
And also with the Lingering Souls, 1 Lingering Souls equals 2 flashback Cabal Therapies, which means that Ross's hand is going to get even more punishment.
Yep. Whether Ross does have the Punishing Fire, we'll eventually get back into it. I would think that his opponent's already got rid of the Abrupt Decay from his hand with the Cabal Therapies.
Yeah. The other thing that Ross might have... No, he got rid of the Liliana of the Veil with the Cabal Therapy. The one thing that Ross definitely has going for him in this match is that he has 4 main deck Deathrite Shaman.
Yep, that is a very good way of interacting with the deck.
And Ross thought sees Nick there and took Tide Hollow Scholar. So both decks basically doing a number on each other at the moment.
This is basically what happens when the red-black X decks fight each other. It just turns into a massive attrition war.
Which is kind of weird when you look at both decks. You think, well, there's no force of will, there's virtually no card drawing. So aren't we looking at a match that should be over fairly quickly? But when you've got two decks that really just throw discard at each other in the early turns, this is pretty much what happens. You're playing off the top.
Yeah, you're playing off the top, and that's what the Jund deck's designed to do. Each card in it is quite powerful within itself. And Nick's deck has a lot of internal synergy, from like getting back grave crawlers to flash back the Cabal therapies. And the Goblin Bombardment, if you've got like a zombie and a grave crawler in the bin, it's like 1 black, deal 1 damage to target creature or player.
Yep. And here comes the other Lingering Souls.
Ross is still looking quite starved on lands here. That Wasteland is looking... That's one of the drawbacks, I suppose, of playing Wasteland. If you can try and get your opponent with it, but sometimes it does backfire.
Yeah, one thing that might be quite interesting to have a bit of a chat about Wasteland is that far too often, and I know that I've done this myself, it's like far too often you just see Wasteland as a card which says tap, destroy target non-basic land. You pretty much ignore the fact that it actually taps for mana on its own.
Yeah, you used to see it a lot in the blue-white control decks where they'd have 4 Wastelands, and then you'd see people using it on turn 1 to Wasteland their opponent, where your goal is to get to the late game and be casting your Jaces and your Batter Skulls and whatever.
Now, obviously, I play a little bit of Vintage, and it kind of works a bit differently in Vintage because of the interaction with the Moxies, so you can still develop your mana despite strip mining your opponent, whereas in Legacy there's that fast mana just simply doesn't exist.
I mean, you had the Bant deck that was successful for a while that had Noble Hierarchs in it, and the Jund deck at the minute with the Deathrite Shamans does generally play a very good Wasteland deck, and then of course you've got the Vile decks, the Merfolks, Goblins, they do that.
And we have an absolutely enormous Tarmogoyf here for Ross, so Nick's pretty much on, if he's playing main deck Swords to Plowshares, I think that's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
Because there's no way he's beating through that Tarmogoyf anytime soon.
However, the Spirits do have flying.
They do, but the Carrion Feeder can't block. So, and as you say, if Ross gets up to 3 mana here, which it looks like he's done, then he's just got Punishing Fire, which is going to take down those Spirits, and that Tarmogoyf's just going to keep turning sideways.
Yep, he's just used... I believe it was a bolt.
Yep, Lightning Bolt has taken out Deathrite Shaman, and Tarmogoyf is going to swing. And this is a very, very large Tarmogoyf from Ross. I believe it's 6 power.
That is a chunky monkey.
Yep, because we've got land, instant, sorcery, creature, and also Planeswalker and artifact from the Jitty and Liliana. So
and also the Tide Hollow Skull is an artifact.
That is true, that's an artifact creature as well. One of the upsides of playing the Shardless Agent bug deck, because if that went into the graveyard, your Tarmogoyf got +2/+2.
Yep. So it's looking like they're both trying to race each other at this point.
I think the deck with Punishing Fire is probably going to win that race.
Yep. What Nick really needs now is a zombie.
Looks like Abrupt Decay just took out the Carrion Feeder, so
it's quite a nice draw for Ross, because obviously he's going to have issues killing it with Punishing Fire.
Yeah. It just looks like we've got 3 Spirit tokens racing a massive Tarmogoyf at this point, and that's really not going to work out in Nick's favour.
Yeah, a lot of creatures in Nick's deck have difficulty blocking. He has the Grave Crawlers that can't block, and the Carrion Feeders.
Can Bloodghast block? Or
Bloodghast cannot block either.
Right. So
however, if he was to find a Bloodghast now, it would have haste.
Yep.
It being a vampire and Ross being below 10 life.
Yep. And a lot of control players will tell you how much they hated playing against Bloodghast. Tide Hollow Scholar there from Nick.
Stealing that Bloodbraid Elf. Whoever Ross can just regrow his Punishing Fire and take that out if he chooses.
Yep, that looks like exactly what he's doing.
He may choose to kill one of
He
them.
made sure, yeah. I mean, he's attacking with one of the spirits here. But yeah, he's taking out the Tide Hollow Sculler. And obviously land at this point is pretty much going to... Oh, that is land. So if this Bloodbraid Elf hits anything of consequence, I think that Nick is going to be looking down the barrel of being 1-0 down here.
Yeah, Cascade is quite a powerful mechanic.
Yeah.
Especially when you put it in Legacy with some of the powerful cards in there.
Yeah, I've got to say, personally, I wasn't much of a fan of the mechanic when it came out. But, I mean, just introducing randomness, but I suppose that when you put it in a deck where it can take the most advantage of it, there is always a certain skill to it as well. And Ross has found Lightning Bolt, so that's going to take out the only blocker Nick has, and that would be a pretty solid 9 damage coming across, and Ross Silcock is going to take game 1.
It's found its way into Legacy as well.